I'm just like... Real talk, this menu is kind of cute. I also kind of hate it. I just want a slider, dude. I guess this is the same problem that you would get if you had like a volume slider that goes from like 10 to 0. In fact, what is this? This is less than 10 already. And it's like, yeah, these are nice. Also, oh, jeez. And then, other problem. I can't alt-tab without the game just disappearing. This game is too indie. It's too indie, but if I were from the creators of Papers, Please, yeah. Lucas Pope. Is this gonna be the whole credits? We'll look at that later. I don't want to see, I don't know. Excited to play this game. I don't know how long it credits GG. Alright, hope you all enjoyed my playthrough of Return of the Obra Dinn. I almost said Papers, Please. Yeah, I've needed to play this game for a little while now. In fact, I was just on my trip. And everyone was like,
hi, you're my favorite streamer, smiley face. Smile. Why is the Obra Dinn returning? Giga 7K POG, Giga 7K HM, Giga 7 Kilo Siemens, Giga 7 Kilo Siemens.
Is the voice different? Because I didn't change the voice at all. I have not touched whatever does that in like a long time. That's really weird. She still says it though. Oh, T-Pain streaming? Is he streaming Return of the Obra Dinn? If not. Snipers, thanks for 82 months of subbing. I don't know why the Obra Dinn's returning. Somehow the Obra Dinn returned, dude. Streaming, giving out $200 DoorDash codes. That's pretty cool. It's nice that you actually got one. I wonder if they would even work in Canada if I were in there and got one. Do you get a prize if you reach 100 months? Contacted me for my typing powers. 100 months. I don't know. I'm already subbing to you. Do you want me to see what my next milestone is and figure out what my prize is? 1,000 months. You definitely get a prize if you got 1,000 months. Because that's a really, really long time. I would, you'd get a prize just for both of us still being alive, I think. At that point. You get something special. To celebrate the fact that we're not dead somehow. Well, I don't know if there's any point in waiting around here too much longer. It is Obra Dinn, very hyped game. I know this game might be rough on the bitrate, so I might have to adjust some stuff later. I don't know. Or maybe just at least for the next stream. Anyway. I wasn't sure what... They have all these options. I don't want it to be that green. You'll be the judge of that. The bitrate. LCD looks kind of cool. Maybe I'll just like play around with this when we're actually in the menu. in the game. No fate solved. Oh, lost at sea, 1803. The good ship Obra Dinn, built in 1796 in London, 800 tons, 18-foot draft. Captain R. Witherell, crew of 51 men, last voyage to the Orient, Cape Rendezvous unmet. Contact East India Company London office for inquiries or testimony. Yeah, that. You know what I thought is Conca Alton. What I thought at first was the beginning of Red Right Hand. Kind of sounds like that. Attention, Chief Inspector, Insurance and Claims. The Obra Dinn is returned. Dispatch to Falmouth immediately and prepare a full assessment. Insurance, huh? That's my job. Can't believe the Obra Dinn has returned.
Company man woke me up. Said you'd need ferry to the Obra Dinn.
The Obra Dinn.
For that job. Seems a bit late if you ask.
I didn't.
What's in the box?
I don't know.
Wow. Obra Dinn is a girl.
A few minutes.
Hey! How?
Carefully.
Well, I guess all ships are women, so, you know, that's just how that works. Can't believe the Obra Dinn returned. It is very cool looking. Makes me wonder what the... I mean, I guess the model just looks like a flat, untextured version of... Well, no, there's some texture here. Part of me wants to just, like, start doing ship stuff. Man the wheel. Which... Close book. Open book. Zoom, pause, spaces action. Do I have any of these yet? Are you gonna...
Oi!
There we go.
It's too heavy!
Too heavy. What is that? Time to find some booty. Yeah, this is just gonna turn into Sea of Thieves. Can I like... Okay, here we go. That's the spot.
It's too heavy!
Okay.
Get yourself!
I don't know if going down is what I need to do, but...
It's too heavy. Take it yourself or open it here.
Get my book. A mystery book for solving mysteries. And adjusting insurance claims. A catalog of adventure and tragedy. Trust that you now find yourself aboard the Obra Dinn, expected this day to come. Tell the ship's strange tale within the pages of this book. Regrettably, failing health has allowed me to produce only the basic outline that follows. Your presence is critical. Leave the discovery of its fate and the completion of this book in your hands. Next few pages will seem bewildering. All will make sense in time. Use the pocket watch to determine the identity and fate of everyone aboard. Complete each chapter accurately and return the book by guaranteed post to the French Office of Affairs in Morocco. The bargain chapter will remain unknown to you. I possess the details within, but have elected to keep them private for now. A journey. Set sail from Europe. Atlantic leg of the Far East route. Got a map. Alright. Ship manifest. "60 souls aboard the Obra Dinn." They're all here somewhere. Someone walked the plank. ES. ES is something. There can only be so many ESs, right? Loose cargo. On the cargo deck. Alright, well, skim through the entire book first. Alright, that's fair. That's fair. On the orlop deck. Motor. Wait. A bitter cold. Loose cargo, a bitter cold. Murder. Outside the first mate's window, the column. Unholy captives. On the cargo deck. Soldiers of the sea. Port walk on the cargo deck. The doom. All very rhyme of the ancient mariner, you know. Chapter will remain unknown until you leave the ship and return the book to me. Book is too bright. It is pretty bright. Escape. So bargain isn't even the last chapter. Glossary. All the ranks. Bosun. Oh, there's the compass. Or, the pocket watch. Alright, I'll see you later, I guess. You just gonna hang out here the whole time? Probably not. Probably I need to look at a body to...
Captain! Open the door!
Might turn it up a little bit after this.
Ah! Lest we break it down and take more than those shells!
You bastards may take exactly what I give you!
Ah!
So the captain shot someone here, I guess. Cool. You can only see the, like, active area here. Cool music. Oh yeah, I did say I was maybe gonna quite quiet. That just makes the music even louder. I don't know. It's probably fine. Oh, okay, we're exiting. Guess I get to look around it for a while and then... the end. Oh, this is cool. Does some of the note taking for you. Who is this? How'd they die? The X is who's speaking. Captain's inside. He's one of the fellows in the hat, I suppose. Oh. Okay. Memories. Oop. Bookmark all memories where they appear for quicker navigation. Use the buttons at the top of the page to edit bookmarks and navigate between them. Listen to base feels good throughout the book. They don't have sufficient information to determine their identity. Trying to name them while their face is blurred would be unproductive. Carry on and pay attention. The information necessary to identify them has been revealed in some way. Okay. So this is the captain. Use the book in the pocket watch to gather enough information to deduce their identities, revisit memories. Use the bookmarks, crew manifest, and artist sketches, pages 2 to 4. 60 people. Determining everyone's identity and fate will not be easy. Decisive information is rare. You'll have to make assumptions using partial information. So this is the captain. Other guy in the hat, I would be inclined to say is like the first mate or something. List of passengers in a spreadsheet document. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, maybe that'll be... Maybe I'll get tired of looking at this thing eventually. But we don't know what happened to him. That's still true. You only know what happened to the guy you shot. Where am I? Okay. Right. So... Guy with an axe. Someone's going up the stairs. Baldy with a knife. Is this the door to exit the memory? I'm assuming it is. He's got a coat. Oh, there we go. That's how we get to the bookmark. Unknown fate, we can say, is not so unknown. He was shot with a gun by the captain. I'm gonna assume this is a perfectly good time to look for other memories and stuff, maybe. Oh, such as this guy inside the captain's quarters.
Where are they? Must be in here someplace.
They're at the bottom of the sea.
That's a lie.
Oh. That didn't sound as violent as that. Some dude is... Ooh, he's going for the sneak attack. Okay. So bald guy's going for the sneak attack. A helpful mechanic? Yeah, sure. There's the gun. Knife fight. So this guy gets his face. Stay zoomed in. Oh, okay. I saw a little bit of a highlight there, and I was wondering what that was. We will try that again after we do our initial look here. Okay. So he was... I mean, not really... Knifed, yeah, knifed. Where are they? In here someplace, the bottom of the sea. So the captain's present. Bald guy is going in from the back. So. Oh, okay. Ooh, is a really cool. So this is the identify who the heck is who situation. Definitely good, because otherwise I would be spending so much time trying to match the 2D to the 3D. Alright. So what by the captain? That's what I was thinking there, but location is just noted on the map. That's good. Probably we're done here for now. No one's face became unblurred yet. Open the book while the pocket watch is open to flip directly to the relevant page. Oh, cool. Bald guy. So there's two bodies here. There's this guy also. Ooh, captain's good. Look at him go. He's motoring like crazy. That's the bald guy again. Oh, examining him. Yeah, okay. Oh, wait. Then that guy comes around. Sneaks in, but not sneaky enough. Cool blood spray there. So, this person was, I mean, well, what is that? Clubbed? I guess. Also by the captain. I'm gonna go with clubbed. You know, blunt stick to the face, for sure. Alright. Someone's in the bed here, so we're gonna have to take a look at that in a second. Oh, that was really hard to see there. Oh, there. Oh, that's funny. She's like, ooh. The woman, you know? I don't think there's gonna be too many of them. Just going by the time period and location. Alright, so we did see. Wow! Look! Okay, so. So there's two more bodies here.
Abigail, your brother, my friend.
Ambiguous name, gender.
I shot him dead.
Okay, less ambiguous.
I'll be with you soon, my love.
Oh wait. Okay.
Please forgive me.
Suicide.
For
Yes.
everything.
We'll see the picture in a second here. Yeah. That is the captain, right? Okay. R.I.P. Look, we've officially solved our first entire, like, who killed who and who are they. Yo, what's up, Alter? Yeah, everyone seemed to be playing it like a little while ago, so I'm really catching the benefit of everyone else has already played this before I did. And I can't. Everyone just gets to watch me. I didn't get to watch anyone because I hadn't played it yet. Yeah, the Golden Idol games definitely get talked about by the same people. Alright, so suicide by gun, separate from being shot. This may or may not be correct. Fates are validated in sets of 3. Correctly identify at least 3 people and their fates to have the information type set into the book. Okay. That has anyone played Root Trees? The Root Trees I did yet? Like the full version, I guess. So Abigail has a brother, and then the captain's got whatever. One of the guys was captain's friend in this room. Okay, no. So the brother of Abigail was the one who was shot. We'll go more about that pretty soon. Hey, Bowling Jim. Yeah, I think I remember. It's nice that they made another version of it without the AI art and stuff. Sounds like it has more going on in it too. This is a nice. I feel like this is going to be a nice playthrough because it's like, I don't know, get to take my time. I don't have to be not dying to stuff. So this must be Abigail. Maybe. Ooh. Ouch. Alright. Oh, shit. The Kraken. I'm running out of Kraken. Actually, wait. Can I buy more Kraken? Is it made in America? Because I'm not buying that shit if it's made in America. Not right now. Oh, there's a lot of people here. This guy looks distraught. I like Kraken, but you know, I'll find my Canadian rum alternatives if I must. Until the war is over. Caribbean, owned by New Jersey. Ah, rip. I'll finish off my... When I finish off my bottle of Kraken, I'm gonna have to go for something else. I still have some. I'm not boycotting the Kraken that I already bought. But... So this is an Abigail. They were crushed by the rigging. And we are looking for... there's a couple unknown people here too. Oh, passenger, here we go. Miss Jane Bird. Abigail, okay, literal, yeah, there we go. Corpse was moved post-mortem. 10 others were present. Any of these unblurred? Yeah, so that's... Okay, so it's another Hoskut, because it's probably her brother. Oh wait, there's this guy too. This person also? Oh my god, we have information enough to identify a few people here, which I don't even know. Oh wait, there's a Martin. Martin, where is the captain? Okay, there we go. Let's... She's asking Martin where the captain is. So presumably the guy right next to her. Yes, okay. And he's got a hat, so he's someone of rank. Martin. Oh. What have I just done? Turned on my echolocation. What's up, this guy's? Huh? Huh? I've discovered another body. Is that how you like? You get to other characters. You find people who died in the same memory. A body has been discovered. Oh. All right, well. I know you, don't I? Oh, not really. Okay. Grabbed by the Kraken. Ooh, there's a lot of people who are currently about to die over there. The ultimate backpack. Yeah, no chance he's in Return of the Obra Dinn 2. Alright, well, we don't know anything about this guy, I don't think. Well, we could find out his name. There's no dialogue in here. So not right now, I don't think. I kind of want to go back to the other one. I'll go back to Abigail. Or, guy who was next to her. Throwing a gun to his boy. Probably these guys need to be on the ship before I can really do much about that. This looks so cool. I don't know, I don't want to have this bookmarked anymore. Do we know what the doom is? Okay. The doom is the Kraken attack. Alright, we're gonna... Oh, finding more. Gotta chain the bodies together. Very artsy. My death watch is ringing. I gotta take this. Whoa, that's cool. Oh shit. Not for that guy it isn't. So cool. Oh dang. Too many guns. There's tattoo guy again. You know what would be the ultimate plot twist? Is if they actually killed the Kraken and then I gotta solve the Kraken's murder. Who killed the Kraken? Who got the last hit? I don't even know. Oh yeah, it should be... He fucking explode. Wait. Yeah, it's that guy, right? So he exploded. I don't think I put a cause of death down for the last person. Whoops. Anyway. Exploded. Yeah, okay, that's the right guy. I mean, maybe he survived that now. This looks like the things from Rusty Bucket Bay that have teeth sometimes. I don't know why that's my go-to for that, but... Okay, yeah, I want out of this until I have more information, I think. Alright, okay. We gotta... Where... I wanted to go with, Martin here. The only go-to for whatever that thing is. Okay, I want to go back to this one because I didn't actually jot this guy down here. You got torn apart by the beast. For communicating below decks or just aeration? Yeah, I was wondering, like, what is the purpose? I would assume aeration. It's got like a grill, but that just to prevent stuff from going down there, I guess. It wasn't a pneumatic delivery tube, at least. We know that. Or, non-pneumatic, whatever. So we are looking for a Martin Perrot, the third mate. Oops, no. How do I don't know. I don't know who this guy is yet. Although I can, I think. I think we were looking at this guy. Guy's shooting. Nabs has also won $200. Wow, big day for the pals. A second $200 DoorDash code has hit the group chat. A delayed vent, which allows air into the ship but keeps water out. Interesting. Who was I? Is this the exploded guy? Yeah. Oh yeah, the problem with what's his face is that we don't know how he died at all, so we just know if I go oh yeah, probably I need to go back into here so I can just make sure I'm lining up the right person here. So you're Martin over here, I assume. You are Martin. He's got a hat, so it makes sense that he's the third mate. That only leaves 2 mates. If I knew enough about hats, I could solve this right now. Oh yeah, but we do know enough, right? Because he said, I need to go back to not a hat expert. Turns out it's a fashion game. I bought this navy pea coat like 2 weeks ago, and it's a nice coat. I went into a store looking to browse leather jackets, looking for the leather jacket that was made for me. And then this guy, I didn't find one because tall guy problems, Everything's either too small or too short, or the sleeves are not long enough.
Your brother.
Yeah, so your brother, my friend. I didn't really need to go into here. I could have just gone to his page, I guess. So yeah, Hoska is the guy who was shot right here. Someone's wearing a 2-keel lock-in. Anyway, I was doing some research on... Because there's like a tag on the inside of the coat. I was trying to figure out, like, how old is this thing? And judging by the tag, and it seems like it all seems authentic and not like some whatever imitation. Just someone made a Navy style pea coat. Judging by the tag, it's from 1967. Pretty cool. U.S. Navy, I guess. Anyway, while we're talking about naval fashion, I just thought I'd bring that up. It's warm. Fits me well. Alright. Woohoo! Is that our first triplet? Alright. We did it. Confirmed. 3 out of 60. A nice, comfy 5%. Yo, we actually have the graph. I guess this grayed out portion is the bargain, maybe. Whatever's covered by the bargain. Or something like that. Yeah, 61 if the Kraken also died. And we have to figure out who killed him. That would be pretty cool. I assume whoever, you know,
him dead.
That would be a pretty easy situation.
I'll be with you.
So we still don't know who bald guy is.
Please forgive me for everything.
Oh yeah, I kind of wanted to look at other... Stuck. I'm stuck. Commodore 1084, very blue. The IBM looks kind of nice. The LCD is not bad either. I kind of like it. Maybe we'll just switch sometimes for fun. This is like iconic, I guess. Probably some matrixy. The red is kind of nice. Makes it feel more boaty. I'm gonna switch to the... It's so harsh though. I'm gonna go on the IBM. We're gonna be going with the IBM for a bit. So there's a whole lot of people on the deck. At this point. And we could supposedly have enough information for this guy. What else are you? Post memory. Let's bookmark these. Unknown officer. I didn't put the... Oh wait, is that because... Oh, he could be an unknown passenger. Okay, that's unknown. There we go. That's what I want. He's not... Didn't want to trick myself into thinking I somehow knew he was an officer. Bodie McBoatface. I wonder how many boats are currently named Bodie McBoatface. not enough. Probably true. I feel like I should have some grog. Like when we were doing Discord Wars and I had grog a couple times during Discord Wars between pirates. How do you make grog? It's really just watered down rum with some lime. So, pretty easily. You can't even, I don't think you can even really say there's a specific, like, you know, portion for that. Because they probably watered it down all kinds of, depending on how much water and rum they had. You know, lime to keep off the scurvy. I guess even the lime is technically not required. I didn't really want to go into this guy's, well, no, yeah, I don't want to be in this memory, specifically. I want to be in the memory where he's alive and see if I can figure out. He's in the memory of explosion guy. Really doesn't say anything else. That guy just naked. He's born for a different race. It's time to start profiling by country of origin. Just kidding. I don't know how we would know who this guy is yet. Oh, not this guy, but this dude. Depicted in the underway sketch. He's on the back. He's drinking. He's probably just a seaman of some sort. New Guinea. I don't know enough about New Guinea. Oh, this is, so we've got this picture. These guys will be a little easier to find at some point. Unknown. Or maybe just not even a real guy. I don't know. You know, before you zoom in, this guy looks kind of like he has a creepy smile on his face. Looks like he's scarier at a small size. It's probably like the helmsman, right? Or whatever. Finley Dalton. How did I even... Okay, so explosion. I still don't. Where is the other guy? Oh no. The goat. Also dying in this scene. Probably. Pretty cool how the doorway is just aligned to where you walk. Oh, he's got a sword. He's hanging on. Pouring one out for the goat of Obra Dinn. Should have sacrificed it, maybe could have saved themselves from the Kraken. I'm gonna go check below decks, because I haven't even been down here yet. Here's a dead guy. Ouch. This is also during the storm, but I don't see the Kraken above ground. Oh, wait, there it is. Above ground, you know what I mean. Above deck. Aboard the deck. Martin, nice to see you again. So that guy got crushed by the cannon, right? On the gun deck. A loose cannon. He's addressing Sir, who's maybe Martin, probably. Yeah, he's talking to Martin. Crushed by a cannon. Probably all we're getting for now. Designing this game must have been very interesting. Oop. What happened to you? Get his head blown off? Ooh. Oh, Jesus, he sure did. Absolutely obliterated. Oh my god. Oh, that knocks this cannon out of the way. Big problem there. This game's so cool. Just the presentation. I mean, even the mechanics of it. vision just popped into my head of like a online multiplayer game like PUBG, where it's like a battle royale, and there's like 100 people, and then they all kill each other, and then you have to figure out like, oh well, so this guy was killed because he was, you know, bludgeoned with a frying pan by Boner Lord 51 or something like that. Just looking around at an empty PUBG map after the game's over and looking at all the corpses. Could you imagine? Decapitated by, I mean, would exploded be maybe no fault death, you know? Oh wait, there's okay, let's take a look at the alright. Go back into this. What's happening here? This guy, am I missing someone? Oh, this guy is being crushed here, maybe. I can't look at him because he's being bisected or something, or crushed under. Oh, there we go. Oop, I don't know if I really wanted to do that. Am I literally just looking at this guy? Yeah, okay. I'm chaining the deaths right now. I don't have, I'll put it all together later. Isn't that just like 5 seconds after? Oh dear. Oh, that's okay, so he's getting crushed by a cannon, sort of, but also killed by the beast. Who do you attribute this one to? Is this the beast crushing him, or the... Well, we'll take a look at the, what it lets us do. Technically the tentacle is the one doing the crushing and sort of using the cannon to do it, but... Well, we'll just say crushed and then we'll... Expired? What is that? What would even be expired? Struck? Fell. Alive. Was alive even an option? Crushed. Crushed by the beast. I mean, yeah. There were people who were legitimately crushed by a cannon, so... Oh, there's Tattoo Guy. Yet again. Who are you? trying to use my detective skill, but I need more information. Well, supposedly I don't. I just don't. I need more information to help me figure out. He's on the Doom. Just in 4 different chapters of the Doom. None of which especially have any identifying dialogue. The Dune chapters. Just walk out of here for now. Huh? Oh yeah, so this guy who's getting exploded here. There's 2 people who are dead here. Where's the other guy? That's the other guy. That's not even... I thought it was that guy at first. Four other people were present. He's the guy who says the fuse. That's the other person. That guy. I'm a little bit confused. Yeah, this is just the other dude entirely. Oh. That's part 3, though. Get to hear the crunch again. Maybe if I'd figure out where his actual... I don't know. Let's just look around. How about, did I get this guy? Okay, he was the one who was crushed by the cannon. I'm just going back and forth between... between a very messy series of deaths right now. So just also, would I just put him down with also an explosion? Because I can't identify a body. I also have nothing to name him, so... I'll just list... What's going on here? Oh. Maybe that picture will come together when I get to later. When he becomes unblurred, I'll think harder about it. Nothing was even happening here. This guy just died, I think. Well, maybe. Oh, no, he got killed by the Kraken. Okay. Maybe he was early on. What's happening in here? Everyone's just kind of chilling. Just taking a shit. Poor dude. No one else even knew what was happening yet. This guy's like, huh? What was that noise? That guy's having a real rough shit. Been there. Yeah, me too. Part 2. What is that saying? This person is the artist? ES? Well, he must be Edward Spratt if we know him by the fact that he's the artist. And we have his initials here. I mean, not strangled. Is it also just going to be crushed by... Kind of strangled. Really, you're getting crushed by the beast at that point. Everyone suffers for their art, supposedly. This guy also. Enjoy your Obra dinner, Alter. Someone else getting killed up here at the same time? Or just beforehand, I guess? My phone's ringing. I gotta figure it out. I gotta crack the case.
Let me on. Over my dead body, you bloody day.
He's Danish?
How's that?
There's no cause for trouble, boys. Get in the boat.
Thought I'd forget. You killed my brother. What? That was an accident. The ropes.
It wasn't his fault. I saw the whole thing.
Lies. I shouldn't have waited so long.
No, don't.
Oh, okay. Gets clubbed by a baldy over here. Supposedly killed that guy's brother. And I have to start making some additional notes, like this guy, like the relationships of characters like these guys to each other. It would be something to note. I should get my, like, need a journal. Like a little actual book. That'd be fun. My own Obra Dinn journal. So we've got a Danish guy. This is the first part of the Doom, okay. Picture of the Doom is coming together. So he's saying, let me on. He is the Dane. He gets clubbed. We don't know which guy that is just yet. Let's look at the country of origin thing here. It was Denmark. There's only one person from Denmark here. So, I mean, I guess there's technically a couple unknown people. But if they're gonna call him a Dane, he's probably Lars Lind. Now, what we don't know is which person is the one killing him. 2 memories. Oh, well, so he would be one of the brothers, right? He has to be one of 2 different people, essentially. If we were to go, thought I'd forget. The wheels are turning. So wait, this guy is someone's brother. Oh, deduction rating. More difficult to deduce. Yeah, but I just want to go by last names here. For now. I would immediately assume he's down here somewhere. See if I see any matching last names. Game says it's too hard for me. I know, right? Duncan McKay. Evans, Smith, Gibbs. James. Imagine if one of the brothers was unknown. Then it's like, well, okay. But if you know a brother, you should at least know something about the other guy, I guess, right? Another bald guy. I just want to like narrow it down. I don't need to solve him. It's hard to recognize. Hard to recognize duplicate names when they are laid out like this. Davy James. Oh, there's 2 Peters. Okay, so it's either Samuel Peters or Nathan Peters, probably. I'm gonna get some actual paper. I feel like that will really enhance the game feel. Actually, I'm just gonna take a break as long as I'm... Wait, no, I need to write it down first. All right. So we have... I should have a proper journal just for... But then I wouldn't be using that much of the journal for Obra Dinn really in the end. So we have Nathan Peters and Samuel Peters. I thought that guy's name was Timothy Basement for a second. And they're both just seamen, so pretty likely that those are the right people. Now, they're not necessarily going to be the only brothers or related people on the manifest, but I think the thing that's going to make it hard right now is the fact that we don't know which brother he is yet. What we'd have to do is find another Peters who dies before this guy. So brothers question mark just in case. One killed Lars, and that's Doom Part 1. And then we can leave that for now, I think. The goat also present. Oh, ropes. Ropes were involved. Wait, no. I thought that was an accident. The ropes. It wasn't his fault. I saw the whole thing. Saying the ropes as in for these guys. Be easier to like listen to it again. Now that's a button I could use. It's just like the play this audio again for me button. We need to get the tone of his oh. Oh, we had the total kill count of people, I guess. Disappearances. 7 people disappeared. Well, some people get thrown overboard. I imagine that would account for some of the disappearances. Still don't know who this guy is.
Let me on. Over my dead body, you bloody day. Huh? How's that?
There's no cause for trouble, boys. Get in the boat.
Before I forget, you killed my brother. What? That was an accident. The ropes.
It wasn't his fault. I saw the whole thing.
Lies. I shouldn't play it so long.
No, don't.
Ropes. Something to do with ropes. How many people could possibly be dying before the doom? Enough, I guess. We don't know what other kind of nonsense this ship gets up to before it gets attacked by a Kraken yet. I did say I was going to take a break soon, so now is a good time for that. Be right back. We'll be back in a few minutes. Gonna run some ads. Turn off those pre-rolls. See you in a moment. Just open the book, I don't know. Actually, maybe it's better to not have the book open. Don't want to spoil people with a thumbnail. Alright. I'm back. I got myself a nice stout. Not grog. Decided to go for a stout. Yeah, I wanted to leave it on a nice little view while I was gone. And I found I didn't really have that much to do when I got up. I just needed to get up for a second. But it was good. So I still feel as if I must resolve some things down here. What's up here? Nothing. Oh, I can open doors. Alright. I was just kind of ignoring them for a little bit earlier. Very hoppy IPA called Truth. I am seeking truth right now. This is just a dry Irish stout. That's what it's called. I don't know. I don't think it has a fancy name at all. That's an IPA thing. I like my IPAs though too. Miss Mike's sometimes. There's an X on the door because I can't open it. Interesting. I wonder if that's related to the missing chapter. I opened this wardrobe. No one died in there. No one shoved a corpse in there. Oh! Someone died. Someone got shanked in here. 2 people. Meet me at Mike's.
Oh no! You're cut!
Someday.
Leave me.
Maybe.
Bear up, son. I'll stay with you.
Tell Pete's mother
Pete's
I
mother.
tried my best
Aye.
to pull him back, to save him.
You tell her yourself. Brennan! Bring the surgeon's kit!
Alright, so there's a Brennan who is possibly this guy. Oh geez, what is happening here? So there's William, there's the guy who is stabbed, and then yo, what's up, Pop Tech Cat? Obra Pikmin. Trying to figure out how your 100 Pikmin died over the course of a single day. There's a lot of beasts and explosions in that one. 0 due to player error, for sure. Escape. Okay, so this is after. Oh. The cut. Don't leave me. Pete's mother. My compass senses these people that I'm right next to who are also dead. This is why you've been saying, oh, he didn't suddenly turn Irish. Or Scottish, I guess, actually. That would be a Scottish noise.
What's all this, you damn fool?
Oh, I didn't record the cause of death for that other guy. Anyway, he's maybe just shot that dude in the face. He's also just been clubbed. Oh wait, so this one, I can say he was knifed. This guy's getting clubbed, struck, whatever. Clubbed. Definitely a club. They're trying to see what's happened. Oh, that guy's just gotten... Okay, that's... Yeah, okay. So... He was stabbed somewhere over here in this fight. And then he crawled into there. Still blurry. I need to look at. Yeah, there's just like a bunch of people who all died here, so we're gonna chain through this really quick. Yep, he sure was just right here. I don't know why I followed that. Oh. I didn't know I could cancel that. Like, on second thought, no.
You know, Captain cannot be trusted. You have a plan? Yes. To take ship and sail east. Trade wretched fish and shells for gold. Hey, who's there?
Wretched fish.
Mutiny! Mutiny!
Fresh bastard.
No!
So he's killed by one of the mutineers. Oof. This guy's already been stabbed. Someone died in here. Possibly just that guy before he fell over. It's a good game to not be moving the camera more than you need to. Probably. As far as like the bitrate on stream is concerned. I haven't actually been looking too much, but I think it's been mostly fine. As long as I'm the blurry one, the gameplay is in full focus, that's fine. So this guy was shot with a gun. So he is one of the mutineers, actually. Well, attempted mutineers. I want to look around at this more. That's really funny. Pie's playthrough is one I would have liked to have already played the game for. Well, probably everyone's Pie's Fox, you know. But you know what? Everyone else gets to watch me, so that's the price I pay. Price everyone pays. But maybe someday if I ever need something to watch, I'll start diving through some VODs. Captain cannot be trusted. Fresh bastard, so I'll wait for the clues. Yeah. He's got a hat. There's someone. Oops, I didn't really mean to click that, but we're we're gonna go see above there. What's happening to you at this point? He's getting chucked overboard while he's already dead, I guess.
Let them go!
Oh, jeez. These guys are trying to get out on their own, I guess. Oh, he's another mutineer, I suppose. Also, this guy, dead. Shot by a woman. Notable. Only a few of those. There's some passengers and stuff, though. There's probably enough to... Alright. Disgracefully. Yeah, pretty good shot from her. Go. Where are the passengers? Nunzio is a man's name, I believe. There's a couple English women. March 7th birthday game, Legacy of Darkness. I don't have any plans to be anywhere. I'll probably just plan my birthday stuff on other days, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of a tricky one. But it's on my birthday. I don't know. It's weird. Ironically, the easiest birthday game schedule might be the Friday before or after my real birthday. When I think about it. Although if I'm doing something with my family, it's not going to be on the Friday anyways. So, isn't it ironic? It is a little ironic. Only in the sense that I might spend time with other people. There's just too many people who like me. I don't know. I don't expect to be out of town. Like rain on your wedding day. You saying playing Castlevania Legacy of Darkness with the N64 Mania crew isn't already a party?
Last one. Move quick.
Yanti, it's gonna be a party that day for me. about you? Oh. Cosmic Bowling pre-show. We should bring back Cosmic Bowling, that's for sure. The Cosmic Bowling one time only. Cosmic Bowling was a funny thing that we did once or twice. One time it was just like, who was it? Was it Rio who was just playing some Cosmic Bowling before N64 Mania for the day? Got stabbed. Struck by hooves, tail, or wing? What the heck? Yeah, it was probably the week after, yeah. Killed by sword. Paul, look out. So is this guy Paul then? Happening here, quick. Look out. Okay, yeah, probably he's Paul. Yeah, the 90s playlist. Good time. Paul Moss from Wales. Not gonna get me with any other people named Paul, are they? That would be tricky. What else could be tricky is if they have like a Richard Dick situation, you know? Do they have any Richards here? That'd probably be pretty obvious, though. Like, what if they called Thomas Lanky Tommy? What if he was Tommy, dude? You know? Anyway. Seems pretty safe to say that guy's Paul. Postmaster Steward, he's standing by sort of these dudes, so I mean that's the third mate, so here's the first mate. He's behind the mates. He's a Paul. We don't know who killed him. Well, oh, I wanted to. Kind of wish I could be like, this guy also killed this guy, but I guess it doesn't matter too much. Just go, if you find out someone's identity. Speaking of which, I should do that for this guy after. You can go back through wherever they are and then maybe piece something together. Back below. Okay. Excuse me. Saw that knock. What the? Oh.
Easy now. You're in a bad way.
It's the squid. Where is my Frenchman?
The squid's gone. Your mate was torn apart.
That. The beast is dead.
Frenchman torn apart.
How did you kill it?
We didn't. It left with the storm.
Ah, no 61, the Kraken.
Chased it off. You should rest.
A curse like that does not live for nothing.
This guy might be the first one to expire, dude. But there is blood. There's blood, but no obvious... Is he missing an arm, or is... He is missing an arm, okay. So he bled out. Or... they've... a lot of blood there, I think. I don't know. I think it's just a shadow of this, actually. Where's my Frenchman? Your mate? An officer? No. He's got some sort of servant. He's German. I mean, would I put down expired? Not old age, no. He was definitely... he was sort of torn apart, I guess. I don't know. Like, he was missing... Foul, no. Killed, sword, knife, illness, struck. What is gonna happen here? You know? I don't know, it's like... He's probably killed by the beast. Old age and also that arm thing. Speared, spiked, strangled, poisoned, shot. Struck. I mean, like, if you were gonna... He's alive in the West Indies, if I believe him to be. I mean... let's just go with torn apart by the beast, because, like... I don't know definitively, but it sure seems like... He's talking about the squid. He's missing an arm, for God's sakes. Which he definitely had before, and lost very recently. So he's bleeding. I guess we don't necessarily know the beast hasn't breached below decks yet. What is this? This is after. Oh, you know what? If this is in the escape section, we have no idea what got him. I don't think I can, I don't think I can make this assumption right now. Let's just go with torn apart by unknown. But what happens after this? I guess we don't know how long this like period was. He's still talking about the squid. He says he left with the storm. The bargain might be related to how the squid disappeared in the first place. So probably the beast, but not much happening in the escape, I guess. Oh, some people escaped. How would you even figure out where the heck they went? Also, he's German. Do we even have... Do we have anyone who's from... Oh, could be... No. I don't have anyone from Germany. He's speaking German. Wait, no, that's... Oh, is that French? No, that is German, right? Yeah, okay. He's speaking German, he's got a French friend. Or servant or something. There was also something here. Your mate was torn apart. So if we go back into the Doom and then we look at the people, whoever was torn apart, this guy's probably French, right? Possibly that guy. I mean, was anyone else actually torn apart by the squid? This guy was crushed. Crushed. Clubbed. Well, he says squid in this thing. I would be willing to say that this guy is probably the bosun's mate. Although he is kind of just hanging in the back here with what would appear to be Top Man or something. Hercules 64 when? Closer to Summer Games Done Quick submission periods, I would say. Unless I really get an itch and run out of games to play. I did kind of get a little bit of an itch after AGDQ, but not enough to do it. Well, let's just say Frenchman torn apart. And see if we can find anything else to support. Who else in the underway sketch is clear here? She's dancing with this other person. Disappeared in the escape section. Oh, is that Martin? Did I do the whole Martin thing at all? Let's... Oh, this guy's mine. Okay. So which one is that guy? Not him. Bookmark 12 memories. Then the escape. The doom. Is he in the escape part 1? Oh yeah, Pete's mother. Okay, so there's a Pete who this guy tried to save. Let's pull him back. This guy's face is not, that might be a wrong name. Oh wait, no, that's as clear as they get. Okay, yeah, that's fine. These people look like they're like together. Two memories. Okay, he's only in two memories, and he's... Huh. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Okay. I wanted to look up one, not a hint, just a country. Right. I'm tempted to say that this guy is the one from New Guinea. But I don't, like, definitively know. Just going by the tattoos. Who's this one? That's Abigail. She's talking to Martin. She knows whoever this guy is. Maybe. I don't know if I should look around the ship more. Where else have I been and have I not been? That guy died over here. I don't know if I'm overloading myself with information right now or what. Guess I'm just hoping to find something a little bit more concrete. But two people.
Oh no! You're cut!
Oh yeah, I wanted to look at the Pete's.
Bear up, son. I'll stay with you.
Tell Pete's mother I tried my best.
Aye.
To pull him back, to save him.
You tell her yourself. Brennan! Bring the surgeon's kit!
There's a Brennan and there's a Pete. Who's the Brennan? The Brennan's in this scene somewhere. Henry Brennan is here somewhere, and it's not that guy. It could be... Probably not that guy. This guy could be Brennan. He's got a gun here, though. Isn't that like a... Wouldn't it be one of the gunners, then? I guess there's only... There's 4 people with... Well, gunners for the cannons, not for the rifles. But he's someone of rank. Which means... Or not rank, but he's a crew, at least. So this guy could definitely be Brennan. And in fact, he's listening. He's hearing this. So I think he is Brennan. Because he's basically indicating right there that he just heard that guy. And this guy is like... I don't know what he's doing. He's one of the mutineers, though, so he's not especially good. So this guy might be Brennan. I'm gonna mark him down as Brennan. I guess, is there a chance Brennan is already dead? This is a mutineer, though, so it makes more sense that this guy would be Brennan.
Mutiny!
Then again. Maybe he's not Brennan, because, like, he's not... So wait, this guy... Huh. Alright. That guy got knifed. He ends up in there. It's tricky. Building a list of the mutineers would also be something to do, maybe. That's William. I really feel like I should know this guy by now. Alright, see you, Sanovan. Pete's mother, I tried my best to pull him back to see him. You also have to look at the Pete's. Okay, so Brennan. There's only 3 people present. I need to, like, go back into... No, I want to look at this guy. So who's present here? Escape Part 4. Where's the captain? Is he up here? What is the captain doing at this point? Huh. I mean, the captain's just like sort of... He's... Did he shoot this guy? No, that guy got stabbed. Captain's a little distraught. He ends up killing all of these dudes later. Has he already killed someone at this point? Captain can't be trusted. Who's he talking to before this? This guy is also one of the mutineers. I feel like I need a bigger piece of paper. Alright, who's Pete? Peter Milroy. Midshipman.
Oh no! You're cut!
Don't. Leave.
Bear up, son. I'll stay with you.
Tell Pete's mother I tried my best.
Aye.
Pull him back to save him.
You tell him yourself. Brennan! Bring the surgeon's kit!
Then again, this guy could be Brennan because he's just been killed. And... these guys all get killed by the captain. So they're all on the same side, actually. That just makes me think that this guy is burning. I'm gonna leave him as burning until... How many fates do I have potentially solved here? I think this is the only one that's fully done. Does Pete have a brother? Okay, tell Pete's mother. Tried my best to pull him back. Should get that spreadsheet you sent later. Just to include like a bunch of different notes next to every name. Without having to rewrite them all down myself. Okay. What about, so guy who got clubbed, which was this guy.
What's a wish?
So what's all this, you damn fool, is this guy coming down, being very confused. Oh, the spreadsheet's here. Okay, time to make a copy of this. So I can make notes on it. So he is Escape Part 6. Peter. Oh, I don't know. Which probably implies that Peter was also from there. Yeah, this guy's from Scotland, so correct. Oh, we already know what happened. Oh yeah, I can see some of the... So I have one that's done. Paul was killed by someone we don't know who. Oh, there's two Peters. Yeah, that's the brothers. There's Peter Milroy, who is related to... He's dead by Escape Part 3, or Escape Part 6. Knows... Knew the guy stabbed, which means the guy who was stabbed is maybe also from England, perhaps. This kind of implies that they grew up together or something. Nothing for that guy. Guys, but I think I only need one more person before I can lock in Or I can know if I have solved a thing. So I should look at who is close enough to being solved. Alright, time to look at the sketch. I mean, what if I just named this guy based on my guess, and then if I fairly educated guess, like if he's Maba. Let's go! Okay, so he was Maba. I was like reasonably sure that that was him. Based on the tattoos. Nice to have some more locked in. Who's this guy? Oh, that's the guy who's missing an arm. We still don't know exactly. He's German, or he speaks German, which means it could be Austrian, right? Next to the Danish guy, but he's got a hat. I guess Formosa. Well, judging by the names, in Asia somewhere. There's also an unknown officer, but which is an interesting thing. Where is my Frenchman? Oh, that would make it would make sense. So he's the bosun, and then his mate is the Frenchman. So he's probably Alfred. And I would assume the Beast. Most likely. I feel good about that, knowing that, okay, you know, he's probably Austrian, his mate is French. His mate is also dead somewhere in here. Not literally torn apart by the Beast, but that's Maba. It's close to the bosun's room. Oh wait, so here's one other thing, is this guy, if I go to this. Who is present with him? Who's talking to him specifically? Okay, it's one of these two guys.
Easy now. We're in a bad way.
Where is my Frenchman?
The squid's gone. Your mate was torn apart.
Not that. The beast is dead. How? How did you kill it?
We didn't. It left with the storm. Captain came up with the hold. Said he chased it off. You should rest.
Of course. Sad. Those that live for nothing.
Don't know either of these guys. But so hat dude, who is present? What am I thinking? Who's present? Well, when the people are getting ripped apart, then that's the hat man is present to support the open din. That explains a lot, actually. How's it going, Tapioca? Still don't know who killed Lars. What are we looking for? The Doom. Edward's dead. That guy. Crushed. This guy gets crushed by a cannon. What about this guy? Was 8 memories. Is he on? On the Doom. He witnesses one of these deaths. I would say this guy is most likely to be the bosun's mate. Where's this guy on the Doom? also the explosion. What is this one? But that's Abigail. Okay. So I'm going to say this guy is the bosun's mate, which means he is Charles. Captain has just come from below deck with this guy. The hold is somewhere. I wonder if we can even get to the hold. Or from like this perspective. Is anyone dead down there? I haven't been down here at all yet. Someone's gotta be dead here. Does this. That's, oh. Interesting.
Take him to the carpet. Get him wrapped and seat left right.
Oh no, the cow.
Here. One swing. Get through the skull in stone or brain. I'll cut her throat when you've done it. Here? Yeah. Come on before she kicks up. You all right there, sir?
Never been on a farm, Charlie?
Mind your shoes now.
Oh my god, the cow! There's a Charlie in this scene. Can't believe we even get to see the cow's death. Oh wait, so we know that Charlie is the one throwing up, right? Was that the one they said? It's pretty big. This is pretty early on also. A lot more animals down here. A couple people hanging out. This guy is dead already? Maybe he died of sickness. There's a monkey. Large cow is slaughtered for its meat. So Charlie is the guy who's throwing up. Wait, I need to get the guy who's throwing up. Wait, what if he's being racist? Shit. Wait, did they call? No. Is there a Charlie? I don't think Charlie entered slang until the Vietnam War, probably. There's a Charles. We've already solved him. There's another Charles. There's 2 Charles. Oh, yeah. Anyway. All of that would have been later. I think. Not racism. Racism existed before, but I don't know if Charlie was... I don't know, I've just been watching Hell on Wheels, and they use a different name for that. Which also, I don't know. Anyway. I don't know where that one originates from. Anyway, he's probably the other Charles, right? I have one Charles solved. So unless I see another midshipman from England. Wow, he's friends with the other Charles. They're right next to each other. Both Charles just hang out. Was Charles Minor was at least from France. Anyway, must be Charles. That guy's the butcher, right? Oh, shoot. No, okay, well. What happened to this guy? Where did he end up? He was being dragged down by the stairs, but what the heck? This guy seems like he died of sickness.
Same as the other fellow. Some lung disease. Not consumption.
Not consumption.
Made worse by the cold.
Will it spread?
If so, we'd all have it. They must have picked it up at the Alaska house. I checked all hands just now, and everyone is healthy.
And him? What are his chances?
I gave him some laudanum.
I think he's about to die right now. I just wanted to check something. Oh, yeah, that was making things slightly brighter. I don't know how noticeable it was, but... Currently dying. This guy's already dead of sickness. They're all just kind of hanging out, like, oh, no, that guy's dead. This guy must be the doctor or something, right? It's nice that they section these into kind of like pieces of 3 dudes. Makes it feel like, okay. I've made progress. I know these guys are these guys, and that kind of fits into a nice unit of time. Alright, so he was... died of illness. Don't know who he is yet. No, not yet. I need to... You are the surgeon. We don't know what happened to you yet. Now, you could be the surgeon's mate. but this guy is the third mate. Okay, yeah. This guy might be the surgeon's mate. But he could also just be a dude. Yeah, the body bag, obviously. What kind of insurance company needs a magical pocket watch to help you figure out who died when and where? Anyways, an honest insurance company. That's true. Okay, there's a Russian person. That's Said. Persian guy. There are some Persians. This guy is... I'm just saying Persian because I remember that country and not any other one where there might be a closer. Guys are all hanging out, playing some cards. Oh, to be playing cards on a ship out at sea. Maybe someday. So this guy is, we already basically know his name and how he died, which is nice. Who's the Saeed? Oh, Solomon Saeed. Okay, there we go. And illness. So the Russians are playing poker. And this guy is speaking directly to him. And not highlight the guy who's talking to him. Okay, there we go. This guy seems like he would be Omid. Most likely. But then I wouldn't know how he died or anything. There's another guy from India, but he's the ship's steward. We should get a boat. The best boat is a friend's boat, they always say. Yeah, it's hard to say who is who here. I would put this guy as the one from India, probably. Because that's not Jimmy, Jambo, Jimbo, Johnny, Johnny, and James. I don't. That would probably just make things even more complicated. 22 others were present. Everyone's hanging out. The guy right next to him is the other guy from the... No. That would kind of just be lucky. Well, not necessarily lucky, but... I mean, we're probably looking at the other Indian guy and the Persian guy here. And then it's just... Which one is which? Does it say anything here? Same as the other fellow. I don't know what the heck a Lascaux house is. That's the kind of thing, like, do you look it up? It's just a word. I guess I look it up. I could learn a new word. Sailor or militiaman from the Indian subcontinent. Oh. Well, what do you know? Oh, that's interesting though, because like this guy would make sense as the other, only because, yeah, I don't know. Who's got the hats? Yeah, that guy. I want to say this is the potion guy. Not too much I can do with that because I don't know when he dies. What is happening here? Oh, is this a sleeping person? The Russians are playing poker. That doesn't help that much, but I guess... I guess I could try and guess based on the person who's actually dead. Oh wait, here's all the other people from India. Okay, well there's a few, so I don't know who's who. Although if the ship's steward, does the ship's steward have... Is there a cabin for them? There's a steward's cabin, so this guy is not going to just be the ship's steward, that's for sure. But then I don't know who he is. So I don't think I can... How many people... I would like to know how many people I have. He's a seaman. Oh yeah, we went because we have his name. Anyone I'm close to. Torn apart by the beast. Okay, so we've got one. Sword by unknown. We've got another guy who dies of illness. This is like a little bit guessy. But if I just go with this guy and then I just run through everyone from India. There's only 3 people. And I have 2 of them solved. Knowing that I was that close to probably locking them in, it was like, well, yeah. Hard to say who this guy is. But if we just say this is like he's probably, I thought maybe he was the potion guy, but he might not be. And we don't know how he died anyways. But who is the potion guy? He's a top man. Would the top man be? I guess the top man would probably be sleeping down here with everyone else also. Are we back? I think we're back. I don't know, I just dropped a bunch of frames and then I guess it disconnected for a second. But it seems to be fine again. Can anyone confirm if we are so back right now? I'm gonna go look at the cow. Okay, cool. We're so back.
Enter here. One swing. Get through the skull in stone or brain.
Oh yeah, so they're bringing this guy down at the same time.
Yeah. Come on before she kicks up.
That's what they're talking about with the last raids. This guy,
You all right there, sir?
based on his clothes,
Never been on a farm, John?
Mind your shoes now.
well, especially his clothes here, would appear to be the butcher. Could be the cook. Oh, he's got an apron on. Take him to the carpenters. This guy's Charlie. I'm gonna say he's the butcher. Looks very butcher-like. I think I could be the cook or someone, but I'm not sure. It's not like he's currently cooking. He's just next to the butcher. That guy's the surgeon. He's got a monkey, of course. Now they're taking this guy to the carpenters. Another thing I can start doing is going by the map. Who knew that cow would be so helpful? I do like the idea that you like see the cow and then that unlocks a bunch of things for you. Where am I right now? This is the surgery, right? Okay. So I want to maybe go to the other end of the ship. Although, I should look in here. Can't get down to the hold yet. To the carpenters. Leads out directly into the ship. That's cool. Wonder if this is like, I think they just like based this on like a specific real ship that they could like tour or something. Or did it just, there's the armory. If I could be looking at other memories I've already examined to find more people who died. I guess they would have to be like, I don't have everything in a bitter cold, do I? Oh, I do, I think. Oh, wait. Okay, the cow is the third death, right? Outside the first mate's window. Now I should be looking at these, actually. I can probably actually just see these. First mate's window. Alright, so that is in front of me.
On your toes.
Go back quick!
Here.
Captain!
Slack the lifts and lower the boats! The whole crew will be on us!
Give it up!
Oh. Shot. Do I have anyone here? Nope. One of the Formosan people. Might be another dead body or two to get from this one. Oh. Yep, this is the start of the murder section. By the Canary Islands. Well, they were shot by a gun. Give it up. Who else is currently dying at this point? This guy. Gee, I can't believe I didn't see this guy just hanging there before.
Hokseng Lao, you have been found guilty by self-confession
that's a name.
of the murder of Nunzio Pasquale.
And he may or may not have killed Nunzio. And we have another name.
As captain of this ship, and by the authority of the East India Company, and thus the Crown of England, I sentence you to death by firing line. Mr. Wolf, when you are ready.
Mr. Wolf. Oh, baby. We're getting overloaded with information right now. That's crazy. You can't tell which one of them killed. Oh, wait. No, you can. You can go by the... That's so cool. But you don't know who this guy is, maybe. Or do I? Oh, it's Brennan! Brennan's shot seems to be the only one that hits. Oh, I love that. Ballistic analysis via magical pocket watch. That guy blew up later. There's the captain. Alright, so many names. Alright, well, this is Hokseng Lao then. So, that's an easy one. I can find him here. There we go. Formosan passenger. Shot by Blenheim. Not technically murder. Have to find out who the murder. Miss Lim is here somewhere. Yelling. That's Miss Lim, I think. Formosan. And then one of these guys is... This guy's saying it's too late, probably. This guy, I don't know. Alright, is this the murder victim that he allegedly killed? Allegedly, keep in mind. We don't know for sure.
Hello?
I guess the murder, this would tell us because, well, maybe not.
Who is that? Someone hurt.
We get to see more than they do.
Senor Nichols, is that you? What are you doing down here?
Oh, hello, yes. All fine here. Just, sorting some things.
What's your step?
Nichols.
Here, let me help you.
What is treasure? This feels very important. I wish I could get past these guys. Oh, so Hak Seng Lao is one of the guards. And he gets knocked out and then executed later. But what's in there? Cursed artifact? Yeah, I want a no clip through all the people. So, we know that who was killed? Nunzio, the most Italian man. What is happening here? He's getting stabbed by, and we don't know who this guy is. Actually, we probably do. He's got to be either the second mate. Oh yeah, he's Nichols, right? So this guy is Nichols, which means we can solve for the fourth mate, right? Actually, wait, no. Where's the other guy with the hat? There's no other guy with a hat. I mean, there's these two dudes. We could probably say this guy is the fourth mate, maybe. But I guess he could be like... Oh, he's watching the guys with the guns. Anyway. So this guy is Nichols. Nichols is the real murderer. And then there's some sort of magic conch. I can't... If only we knew how this guy died. If he died, I suppose I should say. Not everyone died. And Lao. Now who's this guy? Oh, we don't know. Wait, didn't I solve this one? On the cargo deck. Good night, Yanti. Tonapart Beast. Again, Tonapart Beast. Oh, you know what? It was the other guy who was crushed that I solved. It just makes me think that I can get this guy. But maybe it's maybe it doesn't make sense to do that. Anyway, the cargo deck. Where's the other dead guy here? Oh, his hat. Not his hat. There was a bald guy who also dies here. Playing dice. Which means he's a gambler, which means he might have also been playing cards. I guess I can see that. There's Mob at the top, man. That's someone else entirely. Like, maybe he's just not here anymore. Maybe he's just entirely obliterated. If I go to the guy who is crushed here, right before the gun over here shoots. Okay, that guy is like totally blasted then. Okay, so there's the cannon that has crushed them that fires, and then there's this one. Alright. Oh, maybe he gets like pulled away by the beast. Because he's not like in here. It's either that or he's like totally shot and then disintegrates. Can I say the beast blasted him with the cannon? Technically true. Gotta jazz up these death reports. I don't know. This one feels like it requires some additional. Might just be a little easier with some people eliminated. Have any part of unholy captives on the cargo deck. Orlop deck. Cargo hold. Can I get to the... Oh, I just peeked in here. I didn't really want to do that, actually.
Enter here. One swing. Get through the skull in stone or brain. I'll cut her throat when you've done it. Usually a privileged status. Have any way down to the cargo hold? Stairs are over there. There's also stairs here. Yeah, it's these. Not open.
Anything in loose cargo? It's also on the cargo deck. How do I get down there? If I can get down there at all, which is no guarantee. It says loose cannon to someone. It's a guy who's saying what's happened here. Probably he's like a mate, but I mean, I guess he could be any rank. The other guy is just not here. It's tricky because they're both just like... They're both just dead. Just explosion, explosion until... I don't know. Might need to play around with those later. Everybody's exploded until further notice. So true. What if there's like... up here some way. Some way down. Ring the bell. Well, what would even give me access to the cargo hold? Am I to even... Oops. Just sneak down there in one of the other memories. There's the one where the captain's coming up from it, but... Third mate says what's happened here, I think. That guy wouldn't be the fourth mate. Could be the fourth mate's steward. Maybe. Oh, the third mate's steward. There we go. That makes sense. Mostly just solved the murder mystery here. Plus one more death. That guy still seems like he's got to be the gunner or something. In fact, I'm just going to say he's the gunner. And then if I don't solve something later, I'm just going to say not. Benchman is done. Where's Doom Part 2? Wait. Oh, here we go. Doom Part 1. And we know one of these guys is one of the Peters. Probably we haven't. In the port walk. I think I might need to stop here. I'm gonna like chain into so many things if I go any further. Probably. I just solved another 3. It's getting to be 12:30. I think it's the time to stop. Good progress. We are at what was that? 9? No, we're at 12 baits. Pretty good. And I have some more that I could probably guess, and I'm almost just like keeping them for when I really need something to lock in a couple. Like, I think I could, if I had it as the third one and I wasn't so sure, I could probably have one of the Indian crew members, like, just finish off the set of 3, and then I'd be like, okay, cool. I know which one it was. I don't necessarily want to do that, but, like, you know. Totally. I don't know what this is, like, supposed to be. Something sparkling in the water. Maybe it's that treasure. it's... I don't know. It is a mystery. Alright, well, I am done. We have auto-saved. That's good. I will probably play more of this on... I think I'm going to say Wednesday. Wednesday is like big snowy day. I think if we're going to watch Fast 5, that's apparently going to be Thursday. So I feel like Wednesday is a safe day to go with. And it's going to be like... I'm probably just going to cook myself some food earlier because it's going to be like really cold. And apparently we're supposed to get a ton of snow that day. Good snowstorm gaming, I think. And then I don't have to do this immediately tomorrow, which I always kind of like having that buffer day if I can. Not that I really like this. I could just go back into it tomorrow, but I'll leave tomorrow open. Commit to Wednesday. It's easier that way. This game's sick. I'm having a great time. It's very satisfying. It's very cool. Unique. Good stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye. Have a good night.